Now, talking about lack of care and medical care primarily of inmates, how is that addressed by these detention facilities?
Well, let's go to the immigrant issue, immigrant detention, because I think that one has been pretty much in the news a lot related to the lack of care with the immigrant detainees.
For example, particularly in the sense of covering up certain health issues as opposed to
one of the problems is they try to minimize what's going on with the inmate. If they be complaining, they'll give them Tylenol or an aspirin. To the point that they ignore major medical issues. There's been a number of inmates that have died, I shouldn't call them inmates, detainees that have died in these federal detention facilities for lack of medical care. And it's a cost issue. And then what they did in Elizabeth, New Jersey, was they tried working with ICE, even the folks in the government who are supposed to oversee this.
That's Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Right, right. Was to actually try to ship the inmate out, have them, they were actually talking about deporting him so that he would no longer be the problem of this agency or this company and just send them back to the country he was from. But he died before they got to do that.
Now, can we say something about the fact that many of, like in terms of a revolving door and employees who are working initially for these companies and then working somewhere else where they are but not supposed to because there's a conflict of interest?
Well,
you've encountered a lot of those.
Right, right. There's a lot of revolving door between the criminal justice agencies and the for-profit private prison industry, both going from the public to the private and the private going to the public. I already talked about the former secretary for the Kentucky Department of Corrections who used to work for Corrections Corporation of America. You have a lot of people going from the federal to the private. One big example, a former corporate executive for Corrections Corporation of America is a guy by the name of J. Michael Quinlan. Well, J. Michael Quinlan used to be the director for the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So you had the guy who was the head guy for the federal government for the prisons going to work for the private corporations. Well, what do you think he's doing for them now? He's lobbying over in D.C. for inmates, for the company. He has a lot of influence, a lot of connections. So.
How does this whole very shadowy and somewhat, illegal overall system affect the economy overall?
Well, there's a lot of cost shifting, okay? And one of the ways that they cost shift, again, we'll look at the employees. In a public facility, and I'll use Florida also as an example, they get benefits. They get health, they get retirement, which almost is 30% of payroll. All right, the private employees have access to a 401k, they have access to health care provided through the corporations. But if you're making $8, $9 an hour and then they're offering you family health care for $500, $600 a month, are you going to take it? I doubt it very much. Also for retirement, there was a report that was done here in Florida by the agency that does that. Showed that the employees for GEO Group, less than 10% were actually utilizing the retirement plan. So what happens is when these people enter the retirement, they're not going to have a nest egg, they're going to rely on Social Security and any other governmental money that they could get. So
there's really no incentive for these employees to do a good job and to stay there, to stay on the job and to develop certain skills and to be trained.
Well, there's certain benefits to training and to stay on the job. It's just that when you don't have the benefits, you have low pay, you have to sit there and balance that between your safety and your family. I mean, if I can make $8, $9 an hour at a Kmart or a 7-Eleven versus $8, $9 an hour with hardened criminals, and I'm taking my life into my hands every day I go to work, I think I'd work at Kmart.
Yes. When you were researching and writing your book, what were the most significant things that you remember, things that really struck you as being out of the ordinary? Well,
it's just the iron triangle. There's a lot of money I mean, there's billions of dollars out there. So once they get the corporate contracts, the government contracts, the corporations then turn back some of that money, it's the cost of doing business, into politicians by political contributions and also into the local community. Because like I said, they can contribute money into the local Chamber of Commerce or the boys clubs or any of the local charity groups. So they build up goodwill within the community. So it's kind of hard once they're in there to extricate them from it, regardless of what's going on in the facility. So if your mayor is working for the company, okay, they have a vested interest in making sure that that company is doing okay, because a lot of times also the 401k will offer stock in the industry. So you will probably ignore the issues because you have a direct effect. Oh my God, there's trouble in the prison. Well, the thing is, if that information gets out, your stock goes down, you might lose your job.
Yes, so and are there any other incidents you want to talk about in terms of really horrible things that have happened that are covered up?
Well, if they're covered up, we can't find them.
Yes, that have been covered up to the general public that you know of through your work.
Well, one of the problems we're having is actually getting information.
Yes.
We're working on a bill in Congress right now by Jackson Lee. It's House Resolution 2450, which would open up the contracts with the federal government to Freedom of Information Act. This way we might be able to get information about turnovers, about incidents, about issues that are going on in these private facilities, because we don't know. The ACLU, I want to say it was the New York Times, Washington Post have done a lot in trying to get information out of these facilities that showed it was the ACLU that exposed all the deaths, and in fact some of them weren't even reported. You know, all of a sudden they discovered more.
Yes.
So we don't know what's going on in those facilities, and that's one of the problems.
Yes. Yes. So what can a concerned citizen do? Someone who lives in such a community and finds out that there are all these basically illegalities going on, people living, you know, just let's say less than a mile away in miserable health conditions. What can the average person do about this? Well,
it's very hard once a facility is built to do anything. I mean, you can stay on top of it, you can make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. A gentleman down in Texas, Tom Barry, who's a reporter, a researcher, was going around looking at some of these facilities and some of the contracts, and some of the folks didn't even know where the contracts were.
Yes.
Okay, so how can you enforce a contract that you don't even know exists?
Yes.
But prior to a facility being built, is you can get the information. Our webpage has a lot of great information, again, privateci.org, to help either the public, journalists, or elected officials have a better understanding of what a private facility entails. Not just the PR and the feel-good cocktail parties of the industry. You know, with you know, they fly you to to corporate headquarters, or they polish up a nice facility and it looks wonderful. But what's that soft underbelly of the industry that they're not going to tell you about?
Yes.
And once that happens and the public is aware of it, usually they won't go for it.
Yes, and is there anything they can do in terms of calling their local legislature or?
Oh yeah, yeah. I always advocate that you know, you voice your opinion either at the local level, the state level, whoever's making that decision. At the federal level, it gets real tough.
Yes.
Okay. But you can still contact your congressman. But again, the local community a lot of times are. It's a fait accompli. The industry works the back doors through the chamber and stuff, has the mayor lined up, the business community. Then they let the community know, oh, by the way, we're bringing a prison here. So it's tough to stop that.
Well, thanks very much for this information. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.